Okay, hello and welcome back. This is probably new to some of the more recent people who follow me, but not new to people who've been following me for a while. The last time I played this was the beginning of November, and then let's just say that shit hit the fan like the following week, and I'm only now able to get back to playing this. The impetus for actually getting back to live streaming was actually the release of the rest of Errant Kingdom, and I've always wanted to get back to playing this particular game because I've been looking forward to the DLC, and I just felt bad that I hadn't actually done more with it. But for those of you who aren't familiar with Our Life Beginnings and Always, it's basically following your character's relationship with this character here, Cove. Basically, he moves to your neighborhood across the street from you when you're kids, and the game itself follows your relationship through the different stages of growth. So you have moments from your childhood, then as teenagers, no, preteens, and then teenagers, and then young adults. And there is an option to romance the character or not, and if you don't romance the character, then there are DLCs for you to romance other characters. So that's what I started playing back in November, was the DLC for one of the other characters. And then let's just say that my life got very busy and a lot of stuff happened, and I didn't have the time or mental state to play, not even off stream. Yeah. Plus, it took me a while to figure out how to even stream with my new setup. So anyway, during the second stage of your life, so not the first, it's divided into 3 steps. Step 1 is when you first meet the kid, Cove. Step 2 is preteen, like 5 years later, and then step 3 is teenager. You're old enough to actually drive at that point, if I'm remembering correctly. I played this last year, and so there's the other live streams are available on my YouTube channel. Definitely not on my Twitch at this point. And then there's step 4, which is more an epilogue, and then there's a wedding DLC if you romance Cove. And if you didn't romance Cove, then there's a DLC to romance another character that you meet in step 2 and then see again in step 4, named Derek. So that's what I started working on. So the problem is these are the saves from my character that I played off stream, and these are the saves from my character that I played on stream. So I didn't think to keep them separate, so I lost actually my earlier saves for this character. But these are like, I can't remember. Oh, step 3, oh boy. Yeah. So I would basically have to redo that other playthrough, which is fine. But for now, let's pick up with Jules. The key thing here that I forgot to mention is that your character, you can pick their pronouns, the way they look, and you have an older sister named Elizabeth, and you're being raised by 2 women who are married to each other, and they adopted both you and your sister. So it doesn't matter if your character doesn't look like them. You're not biologically related, but they're still your mother's. And each of these steps take place during the summer, so you don't have to worry about school. So this first DLC, which was the one that I played, it kind of introduces you to Derek's family. He has 2 younger brothers, and since he's the oldest, he's the one who ends up taking care of his brothers a lot of the time. So he invites you to help him out, to kind of give him a chance to give him some me time while still looking after his brothers. And his youngest, the baby, he adores Derek and just would not leave Derek alone. And his parents have tried. You can tell that his parents are trying to give Derek that time away from his younger brother, but his younger brother is just... He only wants to spend time with Derek. Derek is his absolute favorite. And so, so you get an idea of what's going on with Derek, and he's a sports fanatic. Like, you got that impression even before the DLC, but, like, part of you helping him look after his brothers is you keep them occupied while Derek practices some sports stuff. So that's why this is called Responsible, because you get a good look at Derek's home life. So I'm hoping to get through 2 of these moments today. This one took a while because it was basically introducing you to the whole situation. So here we go. Lemonade. It was afternoon on a sleepy summer day. Nothing urgent needed to be done. No real plans had been made. You and your company were simply hanging out around the local beach, free as the breeze. It was one of those good days where the world was your own and you had 2 of your close friends there to enjoy it with. Derek was on your left and Cove was at your right. On your left! 3 pairs of footprints trailed along in the soft white sand behind you. Derek had only been dropped off minutes ago. Instead of going inside your house or Cove's, you simply started to walk. It was definitely hot out. Southern California tended to get that way, but it wasn't so bad that you had to hide away from the beating rays of the sun. Cove's hands were in his pockets. He spoke out while facing away from you. Instead, he lazily watched the unchanging horizon.
So...
What do you guys want to do? You and Derek took on matching squints. Normally there'd be endless answers to that question, but the lackadaisical mood made it feel like trying to solve math problems in a dream. You had nothing. Your thoughts were moving as slowly as the tide that inched towards the shore bit by bit. Okay, so this is low tide. Finally, the resident problem solver offered a possibility with a yawn and a tall stretch of his arms over his head. Trying to get my mic closer to my ear. There we go.
Wow.
Wanna walk to the grocery store? What? Cole twisted his face to the opposite side and stared at Derek. A stuttering laugh expressed his disbelief. Why would we go grocery shopping? With a shrug, Derek scratched his cheek and explained. Well, it's probably different here, but where I live, the closest place to get stuff isn't a convenience store or a mall or anything. It's a grocery store. So sometimes me and my bros will take a trip down there and see what we can find. That sounds neat. Won't you find groceries? I'll try if you want to. He stared at him with the same questioning look as Cove. You nod along with the explanation. You've got some interesting hobbies, Derek, he teased. So this game is why I started rolling dice to help me make decisions. So we're gonna roll a d6 to decide which of these to go with. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1. That sounds neat. Derek stuck a thumbs up in front of his chest, open and excited. Cove folded his arms across his body, unsure, and closed off.
This is gonna be great.
It's really not like normal errands. You can get anything you want. There are lots of things at the store you never even think about when you're there with your parents and a list of stuff for the house. Being the one who does the grocery shopping these days, I suppose. Cove's formerly heavy, drooping lids lifted high, showing his bright blue eyes. He glanced between you and Derek for final confirmation that you were seriously doing this today. Derek had complete confidence in his stance. It could be interesting. The corners of your neighbor's mouth perked up as well.
Sure.
Okay, let's go grocery shopping. Cool. It was another successful bit of improvising on Derek's part. He put his hands on his hips eagerly.
Let's go.
I'm pretty sure I know where your store is, but the two of you should probably lead the way. Leave it to us. Yeah, Derek's dad is friends, I think, with Cove's dad, or business partners. Yeah, I think they're business partners. And so that's how he meets you and Cove. So he doesn't live nearby. It's a bit of a drive. Cove puffed his chest out with pride. He was a true local to the town after being there for so many years. And your walk continued now with an actual destination in mind. You retraced the remnants of your steps in the sand, heading back to the neighborhood, then up the hill and out of the residential area. When you turned onto Main Street, the grocery store was already visible in the distance. It also wasn't going anywhere, so you enjoyed the stroll together. You would arrive when you arrived. Derek continued to sell the concept of his plan by recounting stories of him and his brother's past adventures in grocery land.
But
So we'd gotten super lucky because the discount rack had a whole cherry pie for way off. Me, Jorge, and Nico pulled our pocket change to get it, and then we had an entire pie, just like that. Sat outside on a bench near the store and ate it from the pan. It was cut into 6 slices. I only let the kids have 1 piece each. It's already a lot of sugar. I didn't want to make them food sick. I tried to come up with how we were going to explain half a pie to Mom, but Nico had his own idea. He took a slice he wasn't allowed to eat and instead threw it at Jorge. Or should that be George? His last name is Suarez, so I'm inclined to say Jorge. Cove's mouth gaped open at the audacity. Derek laughed out loud at the memory and the response it got in the present. He'd been watching way too many cartoons with food fights and pies to the face, I guess. You'd believe that. If there was one thing Nicholas loved, it was Derek, and if there was another, it was cars, and if there was a third, it was copying things he'd seen others do. Yeah, 'cause he's still... I don't remember how old he is, but he's fairly young.
obviously.
Jorge didn't let that slide, and he took the 5th piece of pie and squished it right onto Nicholas's head. His hair was covered in dark cherry goo. It was a mess, but if you can't beat them, join them. I dumped the last of the pie on myself. Why? It stopped them from fighting over it, and they would have ended up feeling bad if they got messy and I didn't. Nicholas doesn't think very far ahead. Oh, what did you do next?
Honestly,
We found a water fountain around the back of the grocery store and tried to scrape off as much pie as possible. Then we went home. Mom still figured out what happened and we all had to take real baths. That was a good time. A fond smile settled on Derek's face. He glanced up to the sky while getting lost in an entirely private moment of reminiscing. Cove was still reflecting on the story with amusement. That's adorable. I hope we'll find a whole pie. See, Cove? See, Cove? Grocery stores are exciting. He giggled at Derek's storytelling. You shook your head at how ridiculous that was. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So... Okay, now either I roll a d10 and just, there's chance for 2, or I roll a d6, and if I get 6, I roll again. Well, I know I have a d10 in here. I made sure to grab my dice before I started the stream, for once. Here we go. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, equal chance of getting one of those. 7. I hope we'll find a whole pie. We'll have to check for it. Cove ruffled the hand through his hair, possibly considering how it might have felt to have an entire pie crushed into his locks. He smirked. A pie throwing fight is way more memorable than I would have guessed. The most unexpected thing that happened to me when out shopping was that time I got a free balloon and accidentally popped it pretty much immediately. That's one of your first moments with Cove.
dude.
Oh, shoot. It was Derek's turn to chuckle in nervous disbelief. His grin shook just imagining it.
It's okay.
Rest in peace, Dolphin Balloon. Rest in pieces, Dolphin Balloon. That was so terrible. That was so sad, but also really funny. I'm sorry that's how our first shopping trip ended, Cove. Smiled quietly over the memory. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So rolling a d6. 6. Smiled quietly over the memory. Conversation stayed on the topic of store-related outings. Naturally, that time you all went to the mall with Lee, and technically Kyra too, was discussed. Kyra is Cove's mom. His parents are divorced. They realized they made better friends than a couple. Where Cove's mom went during that trip was still highly speculated, but there were theories. Lee, I forget who Lee is, one of their friends. The chat didn't last much longer though. Soon you crossed the street and arrived at Sunset Bird's local mom and pop grocery store. You and your two co-shoppers headed right through the automatic doors. A shiver went down your spine when you stepped out of the afternoon heat and into the powerful air-conditioned store. Yeah, it can be a bit of a shock to the system, because actually I live in Southern California myself. Not on the beach though, we can't afford that. But when it's super hot outside and you step inside somewhere with really strong air conditioning, that can really, it's like, I need my jacket now, I should have brought a jacket. I had a teacher like that, kept his classroom really cold. Shiny, orderly aisles stretched out in front of you. Each one was tightly packed with a plethora of brightly packaged merchandise. To some people, the rows and rows of items might have been a slog to go through, but seen through Derek's eyes, it was a scavenger hunt with endless opportunities. Though it was Cove who spoke first. Do we need a cart?
Nope.
Probably not. Derek casually waved that off, eyes still fixated ahead on the altar of consumerism ahead. We're here for quality, not quantity. Besides, do we even have enough money to buy a ton of things? We're here... Right. Oh, wait. Cope suddenly burrowed his hands into his pockets once again. He tucked them in deep, but didn't find what he'd gone in search of. I don't have my wallet. It's at home. Me neither. I thought we'd just be in the neighborhood all day. Yeah.
I figured.
It's cool. I figured. Derek's lack of a reaction couldn't smooth over Cove's obvious response to the situation. His wimpy eyebrows pulled down together. We could have stopped by to get it before we left. Nah, this was my idea, so it's my treat. I've got like $8 and some change. That's enough for all of us to spend around a few dollars or put it together for one thing. That's gonna be plenty. Thanks, Derek. Not even $10 between us. Wow, it's like we're kids again. I promise I'll pay you back. Yeah, that'd be more than enough for this. He smiled gratefully. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Where is it? No. Don't tell me to put it back in. There it is. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1. Thanks, Derek. No problem. Having limited funds is the best part. You've got to get creative. Cope's hands finally deserted his pockets, and one came up to rub his forearm instead.
Alright.
Okay, thanks. Let's get something good. Derek took a step forward as he cheered. Alright, here we go. You went down the nearest aisle, swiveling your head to check both sides of the path as you swung your currently empty of goods arms through the air. The first stop of the market expedition was a discount rack in the back. You didn't have the same luck as Derek and his little brothers. It was the only place in the store that was barren. One shelf had several dented cartons of chicken stock. Stuffed in the bottom of the rack was a bag of plain rolls. The sight was pretty pathetic. Too bad. He shrugged like it was nothing, but his words told a different story. It would have been easy if there was a pie here or a cake or one of those pans with a bunch of cinnamon rolls. Oh, those are delicious. Wistfully, Cope continued to mumble a list of miscellaneous pastries that you might have potentially been able to get if the fates had aligned. We should just give up. There's no pie. We can still get the stock. It's such a good deal. Sorry, Cope. I was hoping for a cake this time, too. Shook your head with a smile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One again?
No worries.
We can make it work. There's still plenty of possibilities. And if push comes to shove, we could afford a smaller treat, like getting 3 boxes with 1 slice of cake each. We wouldn't eat more than that anyway. Maybe you would eat just one. Cove is a bottomless pit. I don't have a D4 out. What? What? I know I have a D4. There we go. Cove could have eaten the half the pie himself. Yeah, speak for yourself, Derek. One slice wouldn't cut it. You don't need that much dessert, Cove. You shrugged, amused. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2. Whoa. Alright, it's a good thing we didn't find one then. Hey. Push past the already pilfered treasure chest and continued to chat. Past cereals, pastas, and sauces, an aisle full of chip bags and soda packs, and more. The dry goods and canned foods now behind you, you arrived at the produce section. The arrangement of goods was much more open than the narrow rows of shelves. The three of you could spread out more in between pallets and baskets of fresh fruits and vegetables. Derek grabbed an avocado to check its ripeness. Cove stared at the watermelons, appreciating the fruit, but his blank face made it obvious he had no idea how to tell if they were good quality or not. If I remember, you knock on a watermelon, and if it sounds hollow, it's good. Then a recognizable crackling sound spluttered to life. Both the boys with you lifted their heads. Without conversing, the two rushed over to the back wall where the leafy greens were piled up. A light spray of mist burst from the sprinklers, raining down gently on the produce. Cove and Derek stuck their hands into the damp air while snickering. Derek rubbed his hands together to pretend he was washing them. Cove lifted his hands up to be as close to the source of the water as possible. Cove is like a water baby. He loves the ocean. You also had your hand in the veggie mist. You thought the two of them were so silly. That was weird. Stuck your face into the misting. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3. How did they both know to do something ridiculous like that? Their impromptu public shower ended shortly and it was back to the center of the space for them. Knowing grins were shared between the pair as you regrouped. There was a comfort in realizing someone else had the same silly habit as you. With the distraction over and the main goal unresolved, Cove helplessly glanced around the store. He was totally stumped. There's a lot of things I like, but I don't have to get any of it now. How do we pick? There was a whine in his tone, and he crossed his arms out of frustration. Derek kept it light, same as he would when dealing with his much younger siblings. Dude, you need more imagination. Turn lemons into lemonade.
I've got a plan.
Actually, wait, yeah, that's what we should do. We can get some lemons and make our own lemonade. The concept struck Cove just as much as Derek. Oh, that would be cool. Now that's an idea. Thanks. Derek marched with purpose to a box that was heavy with mesh bags of the desired yellow citrus. He tapped a finger to his chin, then bounced from one foot to the other. Derek was suddenly a lemon connoisseur who scrutinized the offerings with utmost focus. He selected 2 bags, one in each hand. The bottom of each pack was set against his upturned palms. Derek jiggled the lemons and tried to get a sense of their weight. Finding the bag on the right was deemed superior, and Derek carefully laid the unwanted bundle back onto the stack. Then he lifted the winner high, showing it off to Cove and you. I've got my thing. It's only $3. Your turn. This time Cove didn't look aimlessly at what was in front of him. He shut his eyes and put all his mind's power into conjuring up an answer. Soon he stole a quick glance at Derek's lemons through squinted eyes. Then he took his turn.
Come on. Let's go.
Let's do it! You made another trip across the length of the store, this time at a much brisker pace. Cove had a target in sight, even if you couldn't see it yet. You blew past all the food aisles, the pet shelves, and the cleaning supplies. He only stopped when you'd made it to the one random aisle in the store, with cheap plastic kids' toys. This is it! His words were eager and certain. There was a childish excitement to Cove that was fitting for the location. He reached a hand into the wall with yo-yos and bubble blowers. His fingers landed on a baggie of water balloons. Drinking lemonade is going to make me want to have fun outside, too. We can use this for that.
Yeah.
Perfect plan, Cove. I'm amazed you didn't get food. Like I said, Cove's a bottomless pit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5. Alright. For all his previous indecision, the sweetness of victory was all the more worth it for Cove. His selection was even cheaper than Derek's, $2 on a bit of change. All that was left of Derek's money was $3 and your choice of prize. Derek patiently cradled his bag of lemons while Cove watched you expectantly, excited to see what the final piece of the puzzle would be. You reflected on the theme that was forming, your own preferences and the shareability of different goods. In the end, you opened your mouth and said, "How about some chips to snack on? Let's get some candy to eat with lemonade. I want those little umbrellas to win the drinks. Could we get the discount rolls for real? I like one of these bubble blowers. I'll take a yo-yo. I'm gonna get gum. I don't want anything." You're gonna need food with that lemonade, so the question is, do we get chips or candy? I mean, neither is very healthy. Ha. So I have the D2, which is basically a coin. So 1, 2. Two. We'll get some candy. Yes, we need that. Got to lead the way out of the toy aisle and back into the thick of the grocery store traffic. You wound around the aisles until you found the right spot. Took another minute to pick up the best candies and then you were done. With items in hand, you, Derek, and Cove went through the checkout line. Derek dug out his pocket change and paid for your odd arrangement of items. None of you bothered to get a bag. Derek's was already in one, and you and Cove could easily carry your things on your own. After a successful grocery trip, you returned to the great outdoors to walk back to the neighborhood. This kind of outing reminded you that it wasn't about what you were doing, what counted was who you were doing it with. Because, yeah, doing grocery shopping by yourself is no fun. I usually end up going with my brother to the store, and having him to talk to and bounce and help remind each other of stuff really helps. Outside, you gathered in front of the crosswalk and waited for a chance to get back on the main sidewalk. While standing around, it was unanimously decided that you'd bring your goods to Cove's house and make the lemonade there. Your home had the risk of Elizabeth deciding she wanted a pre-dinner snack. She would appreciate having a lemonade-making operation in the way. There was no worry of that in the holding condo. Cove's mom and dad were out, and even if they weren't, they were his parents, not his bossy big siblings. Yeah, Cove's mom is visiting for the summer. They wouldn't even dream of throwing the three of you out of the kitchen to use it instead. Yeah, Elizabeth was a bit of a brat. Sorry, there's stuff on my can of soda. It's driving me crazy. There we go. Derek was thinking along similar lines based on what he said next. Honestly, man, I can't wrap my head around what it's like to not have any siblings hanging around the house at all. I don't mean that you're weird for that, just it's gotta be so different.
Really?
Is it? I have my dad here. My mom is staying right now, too.
I guess.
Yeah, but that's not the same. Parents take care of the kids, and the kids have a bunch of stuff they need. Every day it has to be about me and my brothers. If we go out to eat, will everyone like the stuff there, or will Jorge be too picky? Are we all old enough to do whatever the thing is, or is Nicholas too little? My birthday is the only time I can do everything that I want for the whole time, and I still choose to keep my bros in mind, even though my parents don't make me. And I totally get where Derek's coming from, because I'm one of 4 kids. I have a twin sister and a sibling whose birthdays, obviously my twin's birthday was the same as mine, and our siblings was the day before ours, so we always had to coordinate what we wanted to do or where we wanted to go. My brother's birthday is basically like halfway across the year, so he didn't have to worry about that.
It's okay.
I don't mind, but it's crazy imagining a world where I don't have to do that. Huh, I hadn't thought about that. Cove's eyes darted back and forth, and he bit the inside of his cheek. I guess having siblings or not changes how someone thinks. I figured people would be who they are no matter what, but maybe I would have needed to be at least a little different if I had to share my parents and life all the time. I don't even want to imagine a world without Elizabeth. That's kind of sweet. I'm glad both of you are who you are. I can relate to that, Derek. I wonder who I'd be without Elizabeth. Don't even want to imagine a world without Elizabeth. Quietly consider the topic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. again. Quietly consider the topic. Yep, like I said, it was weird to think about.
But
The road was clear, so Derek got the conversation and his legs moving again. He started preparations by listing off what you'd need to gather when you made it back. Sugar, ideally some ice, and really cold water, or a pitcher or something like that. Do you have one of those lemon squeezers? We can do it by hand if we've gotta. With every object Derek recited, Cove nodded along plainly, but he was watching something off in the distance. These faraway thoughts made Derek's words reach him less and less until Derek noticed a lack of reaction. He called to Cove more loudly to catch his attention. Are you okay, dude?
oh,
Cove blinked as his brain snapped back into place in the center of his head. It's nothing. What were we talking about? Derek spun his lemon bag into a mini tornado by twisting it around tight from the bottom and then releasing it. He snickered.
no worries.
I was just making plans for making the lemonade. Okay. The rest of the trip passed by comfortably. Derek carried the conversation and Cove really paid attention from then on. Once you'd arrived in your neighborhood and reached the Cove's front door, the resident of the building opened it up without needing a key. It was already unlocked. Derek gasped upon seeing such a lack of security. Cove, however, was so relaxed and content that he yawned while going inside. It's a much quieter neighborhood. It's not in the middle of a big city. But even my family doesn't leave the house completely unlocked if we're all going to be gone. That unknowingly cut off Derek's chance to question Cove about his choice not to unlock the door. He simply followed his friend inside, and you did as well. Cove leisurely crossed his living room to drop his bag of water balloons on the coffee table for later. You didn't even visit Cove's house, or at least in the game we didn't even see it until the step 2. You left your candies there alongside it.
I'm on it.
Alright. Derek went straight into the kitchen. He had his lemon bag over his shoulder like a gym pack, and flipped it over to sit it beside the sink. He slipped his thumbs through the holes of the mesh and tore it. Where is your colander? Cove paused, looking incredulously at the wall. Then he turned and projected his confusion across the counter towards the source of it.
What?
My what? Undeterred, Derek was quick to offer a rephrase. A strainer. In the lower cabinet. The one on the left. Derek pressed his hands into the marble and leaned forward with a grin. Thanks, Cove. I've never heard a strainer be called a colander in my life. Can't believe you didn't know what a colander is. You learn something new every day, huh, Cove? Oh yeah, I totally knew what Derek was talking about. You watched the two boys in amusement. I think these two are the best choices. Let's go with this one. Uh-huh. Then the spiky-haired chef ducked down and disappeared from your sight, if you could call someone who made lemonade a chef, that is. When he popped back into view, framed by the back wall and support beams at the front of the kitchen, Derek was holding a silver strainer. He plopped it into the sink, and it sharply clinked against the metal basin. Derek took the bag he'd set nearby and dumped every single lemon into the waiting container. He turned the faucet so he could clean the cherry fruits. The sound of running water added an extra layer of relaxation to the atmosphere. Cove stopped dawdling and joined the already hard-at-work Derek in the kitchen. He grabbed a cutting board and a large knife from an upper drawer. It was his house, and he wordlessly claimed responsibility for the riskiest part of making the lemonade. I haven't actually hurt myself while slicing stuff, but I've come close. Cove also directed you towards the sugar and a few other things. As it turned out, Mr. Holden didn't have an actual lemon squeezer, so you were going to be doing that by hand. He did have a perfectly crystal clear glass pitcher that'd be perfect for the lemonade. The body of it was a completely round ball shape. It had a narrowed edge that pulled in at the top, with one side pinched into a spout. As far as you could tell, it'd never been used. Have you made lemonade before, Jules, Cove? Derek casually questioned both of you while he hefted the so-called colander up and down to shake off some of the water clinging to the freshly washed lemons. Only in summer. Me and Cove made it together before. Cove scratched the back of his head bashfully and chuckled. It was a pretty small amount of things you hadn't done together over the years of being across the street from each other. Yeah. Cool. Derek hummed while placing lemons on a clean kitchen towel. Took a fruit from the colander with his left hand, pressed it over to his right, and placed that down while grabbing a new one.
It's all good.
I've made it before, too. Fresh lemonade is so good. I'm excited for this. So am I. The tools were all prepared now, so the team shifted into the actual creation of the traditional summer drink. Cove would cut the lemons into chunks. Derek gave Cove a tip to roll the lemons against the board before slicing them to get the juices going. You and Derek worked hard together to squish the fruits. You squeezed the lemon parts over the pitcher itself with a smaller strainer balanced over the mouth of it to catch the seeds. Piece by piece, you crushed the thick peel into itself to pop the little sacks of juice in the fruit. The tips of your fingers began to wrinkle after a while. But slowly, a murky liquid pooled at the bottom of the glass container. When enough fruits were chopped, Cove joined in the juicing effort. The three of you huddled around the counter together. You leaned over the one pitcher and strained to get everything you could out of the little menaces while not accidentally squirting acid into anyone's eyes. Yeah, that would be no fun. The precariousness of the situation aside, Cove continued the conversation with a question of his own. Derek, you made lemonade, but did you ever do the whole lemonade stand thing where you try to sell it to random people who pass by? Oh yeah, it was a mess. I think we only sold like 2 cups. Nicholas kept drinking our supply, and Jorge's efforts to stop him spilled even more of it.
Oh man.
Plus, the 2 kids fighting over the lemonade jar probably scared people away from the stall. But it's not like I was expecting that to be some kind of entrepreneurial success. It was for Nico and Jorge to have fun, and they did. Mostly. As usual, tales of Derek's endeavors as a big brother got Cove to chuckle. You were also smiling, even though your fingers had started to cramp after so much lemon compacting. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3. I didn't ever try. I could never talk to strangers like that. Hey, that's fair. It was pretty awkward whenever anyone did come by.
Man.
But man, all this business talk makes me think about how I only met either of you because my dad partnered with Cove's dad's business. If that hadn't happened, you probably wouldn't have ever learned I existed. You still know each other, obviously. Derek squeezed his 12th lemon chunk with a fittingly sour expression on his face. He'd accidentally made himself feel like a third wheel. In the cluster of human juicers, Derek was in the middle, yet he began to defade despite being right next to you. You and Cove looked at one another from over Derek's lowered head. Cove pushed himself to smile through his concern while also giving Derek's arm a little nudge with his elbow. I worry about that kind of thing sometimes too. If my dad hadn't picked this street to move to, I wouldn't have met Jules. The bravery he mustered began to disintegrate after putting that truth to the front of his mind. Cove swallowed bitterly. I don't like it when I start thinking about that.
It's okay.
But my dad still would have had his business, so I still would have met you. Sheepishly, Derek pressed his shoulders up around his face. He managed a small smile.
Yeah.
It's rough for all of us. Where your parents live and what your parents do has to matter so much to everything. Derek bit his lip, unwilling to let himself continue to speak negatively. But, like a troll coming out of his shell, Derek lifted himself off the counter and rejoined you and Cove at his regular eye level. We did meet each other, and we're friends. That's what counts. We could have met another way somehow. That's true. It's a small world. Cove quietly watched over his friend, soothed by his uplifted mood. Then his lips parted as a pleasant thought came to mind. Hey, this is where I was standing when I first met you.
Right?
Oh yeah! Derek bounced up on his toes and tossed the lemon piece he'd been working on over into the trash can. It landed inside perfectly. But I was on the other side of the counter back then, and now I'm here in the kitchen with you. That caught your ear and you lifted one of your brows. You remember the night Cove told you he'd met a new kid named Derek, but he didn't say much about it. All you really knew was that their parents started working together, and then Derek began to come around the neighborhood for visits. Derek could recognize an intrigued audience when he saw one and did what he knew how to do, tell the rest of the story. Mr. Holden invited my dad over for a meal at his house after their partnership was official. He'd talked about Cove before when him and my dad were getting to know each other. You can't get away from hearing about Mr. Holden's top-notch son if you spend any time with him. Aww. Off to the side, Cove mumbled with embarrassment over what he clearly thought was an unnecessary addition. Derek laughed the minor interruption off and went on.
So...
My dad suggested that I come too since we were the same age. Mr. Holden was apparently really into the idea. I had no idea what to expect from something like that, but I wanted to go to a sort of business dinner with my dad. It felt pretty cool to be invited, and then I went. Whatever I was imagining before I got there, Mr. Holden definitely wasn't it. I had thought my dad was casual for a professional business person, but Cove's dad takes the cake. A warmth came to Cove's expression. Not the red-hot heat of fluster from before, but a gentleness that was based in his honest love for his parent. A lot of people don't expect Dad to be how he is. What did you think about me when you first met me, you know? Derek mindlessly scratched his damp hand against the back of his head. Stray lemon seed clung to one of the spikes of his hair. You didn't want to cut the two off, so the little bit went unmentioned.
No way.
Honestly, when I spotted you in the back of the kitchen, I thought Mr. Holden had another older kid he was hiding, because there's no way that guy was 13. Yeah, Cove is tall for his age, even at this young age. I mean, look at the height difference. You were so tall and fit and just stared at people. You seemed like a tough upper grade teen who'd never talked to somebody like me. You snickered under your breath. If you didn't know any better, you'd think he was describing Elizabeth. Having that description be assigned to Cove Holden of all people was hilarious. Cove was equally startled by Derek's choice of words. His eyes opened wide in amazement.
Oh.
You thought I was tough?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I did, but thought is definitely the right word for that. That instantly put Cove into a pouting mood. Pressed both his palms against the marble countertop, not bothering to squeeze another lemon. Cove didn't want to play anymore. Come on. Derek leaned his shoulder against Cove's side affectionately. He reached past him to the lemon slice Cove wasn't using and started to juice it himself.
Sorry.
There's nothing wrong with being a softie. I like that about you. Bringing Derek's statement to life, Cove visibly relaxed his stance. The tone of his voice was equally delicate. I guess it's not bad. Cove was honestly kidding himself if he thought he was anything other than a sensitive sweetheart. But, just like Derek, that was something you treasured about him. It's great, Cove. Cove took a new piece of fruit and rejoined the lemonade baking efforts. Derek pinched a knife shut from the tension of crunching a chunk in his fist. He hesitantly continued the topic. So what about me? When you first met me, what kind of impression did you get? With much less force, Cove used both hands to work on his single lemon. He answered the question while staring off into space. That was likely the same expression Derek had seen the moment they'd met. The face he'd read as intimidating rather than easily distracted. I thought, he probably likes sports. All three of you shook from laughter, bumping against each other with your closeness, like a bunch of grapes on a vine wrestling in the wind.
I get it.
Okay, Jules, your turn. What did you think about me when we met? Oh. Your mind drifted back to a few months ago, before summer vacation had begun. You stepped out of your house late in the evening and Cove was sitting on the curb with someone else. Someone you'd never seen in your life, not even in passing at school. A green-eyed boy with a football jersey who was joking around lightheartedly with your longtime neighbor. You'd guessed immediately that he was a Derek kid from the Holden's new business relationship. That or Cove had learned a magic spell to summon a new friend out of nowhere. He had stood there staring for only a second, but the newcomer noticed your presence quickly. He jumped right to his feet, jogged across the street, and stuck out his hand for you to shake. With the wide grin that you were so familiar with now, he introduced himself to you for the first time as Derek. We're gonna go with this. I thought you were cute. Because this is a chance for you to romance Derek, so of course I'm gonna go with it.
Really?
Thanks! Are you gonna tell me what you thought of me when we met? Derek's gaze shifted from the picture in front of him to settle on you instead. There was a focus in his eyes. It made you hold your breath from anticipation. I thought you were cute, too. Wow, it's kind of flattering to know you made such a good first impression on Derek. We're a couple of cuties. Definitely. By the way, you have a lemon seed in your hair. Oh! Derek ricked his hands to his light brown strands blindly. Fortunately, he focused on the top and side, so he never hit the right spot. One of your hands covered the laughter coming out of your mouth, and you used the other to point out the target on the back of his head. Finally, he was able to brush the seed onto the floor. He bent down to pick it up and dropped it to the side on the counter. Thanks, Jules. You're welcome. We could have had a little of the lemon zest, too. I'll do that. Derek fumbled to move the topic to something else. His darkening cheeks were probably the reason why. Do you have a grater or a peeler? Yeah. Cove gestured to the same drawer the knife had come from. Derek dug through it until he successfully retrieved a multi-texture grater. He took his stuff to the opposite side of the kitchen to not get in the way and worked with his back to you and Cove. Cove tilted his head thoughtfully. He was inspired by Derek's work ethic. If it's going to be fancy lemonade with zest, then we should do that thing where you put whole slices in too. I can cut a few of the leftover lemons.
Cool.
Jules, can you pour the water and sugar in the pitcher so it can start to dissolve? Yep. He started by filling up the sparkly jug with chilled filtered water from the fridge, and remembered to put ice in the drink too. The diluted lemon juice sloshed around and threatened to spill over as you piled in the ice. Left some space for Cove's lemon slices. Finally, he took the hold of the hefty bag of white sugar and pulled it close to the counter's edge. Stray grains of sugar that coated the bag came to stick against your still damp fingers instead. It felt like you were building a sandcastle at the beach. Let's go with a half cup, because we want it to taste the lemons, but we don't want it to be too sour. Searched around the kitchen till you found a colorful ceramic mixing spoon. You dunked it into the pitcher and carefully stirred. A quiet smile grew on your face as you watched bits of sugar swirl around in the pale yellow drink. At this point, the separate ingredients had truly come together to become lemonade. Round and round you turned the spoon. It was almost hypnotic the way the juice whirled inside the pitcher. Your trance was broken by a sharp hiss at your side. You dropped the spoon, losing it in the depths of lemonade, and snapped your head towards Cove. He was holding his left hand up to his face. A thick bubble of dark red had slipped down from one of his fingers and left a streak over his palm. Oh, ouch. That's not great. Where do you get the bandages? Cove plainly shrugged. It's nothing. Without even thinking about it, Cove reached his hand down to wipe the mess on his pants. Luckily for his trousers, Derek flipped around at the commotion. His tense, worried face took in the scene, and a disbelieving shout startled Cove into freezing. Don't do that! Cove stared incredulously from the corner of his eyes with an arm awkwardly sticking out from his side. His sudden pause in a strange position reminded you of the red light, green light game you played at your elementary school, except there was no green and only red in Cove's version. I'm fine. No way. Seriously, Cove, you have to take care of that. Derek stretched his arms high to grasp the taller teen by the shoulders. He stepped backwards, getting Cove to move with him. We're gonna clean that off for real. Cove muttered an averted fine as he stumbled along with Derek, who was reversing out of the kitchen. Jules, do you mind cleaning up the cutting board? No, I'll take care of it. You gathered the knife onto the cutting board and brought it over to the trash. The lemon slices couldn't be used in a drink after that. You used this knife to scrape them off and into the bag. Then you got to rinsing the board and knife in the sink with soap and hot water. You switched between staring down at the suds and checking over the counter for the boys. You were careful not to accidentally get a cut of your own, but it was hard not to wonder what was going on down the hall. By the time you'd finished washing up, Cove and Derek re-emerged in the living room. An unassuming brown bandage was wrapped around the cut on Cove's finger.
It's okay.
It wasn't deep. We washed it off, got it clean, put a bandage on it, good as new. Derek marched with confidence right back into the kitchen. Cove hesitated in the living room. He waved apologetically.
Hey.
Hey, you really okay? I definitely am. I just knocked myself when a lemon slipped. The juice stinging me was way worse than the cut itself. Oh yeah, definitely. That's relief. Thanks for helping, Derek. Thank you too. It's cleaner in here. He held his hand up to you for a high five. It had been washed clean of the lemon juice that coated it before. Slapped his hand and swung your palm forward and clapped Derek back. He pumped his arms enthusiastically as a follow-up. Cove walked over to join the two of you, smiling ruefully. Thanks for caring. Always, man. Now what? Well, he took a second to look between you and Cove as he puzzled out a next step, and then he beamed. Let's try our lemonade. It doesn't need the slices or the zest. Derek gave an exaggerated wave across the front of his chest, blowing the whole thing off. Cove eagerly supported the sentiment. He was more than ready to put the prior incident behind him.
You're right.
Yeah, lemonade doesn't need to be fancy. It's lemonade. Derek nodded twice as he strained to lift the nearly full pitcher. He had to balance on his tiptoes to pour the juice into the set of 3 glasses that had been put out earlier. There's our spoon stuck in the bottom. If Derek knows there was a spoon clattering around in there, he pretended that he didn't. At the same time, Cove and Derek tipped their cups and took gulps of the drink. You savor the taste and you watch their reactions as their reactions form. Cove's brows lifted in surprise, and his eyelashes fluttered. Derek hummed while wiping his mouth. This is better than I thought we'd be able to do. It's really lemony. Derek gave a thumbs up to that.
Good job, team.
Derek gladly joined them in taking a sip, enjoying every drop of your hard work. It was absolutely refreshing. Cove chugged the rest of his drink, then placed the empty cup down firmly. His enthusiasm was continuing to rise. Let's fill the water balloons. Slowly, cautiously, Derek questioned Cove's plan. He didn't want to ruin things, but expressing concern was more important.
Are you sure?
Will you really be alright in a water balloon fight with your finger and stuff? Cove remained relaxed in the face of Derek's worry. He wasn't going to bring the mood down after the commotion he caused earlier. He responded to the inquiry by slickly pulling out the big gun. Your neighbor smirked as he held up his left arm over his chest, showing the full length of the jagged pale scar that marked him. I've had worse. Derek's eyes widened and his mouth was set, hanging open. You'd seen Derek in his swimsuit. He didn't have a single scratch on his skin, or if he did, it was tiny enough to be covered by nothing more than neon shorts. He could only imagine what Cove had gone through to get an injury with such a lasting impact. So if Cove Holden said he could manage a cut, he could manage that cut. Yeah, you find out how Cove hurt his arm. When you first meet him, he has a cast. But yeah, he hurt his arm in a water skiing accident. And as he gets older, of course, the scar is not quite as prominent because, of course, he got it as a kid.
Whoa!
You know, you're pretty tough after all. The compliment had Cove preening, caressed his chesty scar and giggled childishly. Yeah, you make a good point. Alright, let's do it. Nothing else needed to be said. The three of you busted open the baggie of water balloons, pushed the tools of your lemonade protector aside, and got to work on another summer group project. Stretch the open end of a water balloon over the faucet. The plastic fit snugly around the silver spout. You still kept your hands on it to make certain the balloon didn't pop off and shoot a stream into your face like a busted water fountain. Derek flipped the handle up for you, and the first saggy balloon rapidly expanded. Out of the bag, the balloon was a dark emerald color, but in only a few seconds, the bloated sack of water had stretched so thin the green had become almost translucent. It's as pale as Cove's hair. Before it was pushed beyond its limit, Derek turned the faucet off again. Carefully pinched the strained top of your perfectly plumped toy, and then harvested it off the silver vine. Cove reached out for it as he intended to tie the balloons while you and Derek continued filling. Derek looked between the balloon and Cove's hand and called a time out. He'd been a little overeager to get involved and realized in that moment that the team arrangement wasn't the most efficient. He requested to switch positions with Cove. Cove rolled his eyes, but couldn't argue. His bandage could easily be yanked right off by the taut loops of plastic that formed around the fingers while tying them. Your optimized party got back into action with you hooking balloons into place, Cove handling water distribution, and Derek sealing the deal with a knot. Soon you had a couple dozen shiny water balloons overflowing in the sink basin. Cove pushed off from the counter silently. He disappeared from the kitchen and left you and Derek wondering. Went down the hall into his bedroom. It's only gone for a minute before stepping back into the hall with a pure white hole-speckled laundry basket. The point of that was obvious, but his choice of bin did get a bit of ribbing from Derek. Did you dump your clothes on the floor for that? Yeah, they were already dirty. Oh. Derek blinked. He hadn't expected that to be true or for Cove to be so straightforward about it. He snickered at the exchange, still casually leaning against the sink. When Cove dropped the very newly emptied laundry basket on the towel, you cradled a few water balloons in your arms and placed them inside. Cove and Derek joined in with the transfer. Eventually, every water balloon had safely made it into the basket.
Nice!
Nice work! Derek and Cove each took one side and lifted while you helped steer by grabbing the back end. Moving as one, the three of you shuffled out of the kitchen and through the living room to take your treasure chest of jiggly jewels into the neighborhood. The door was open, the drop from the curb to the street was overcome, and you successfully placed the laundry basket in the center of the empty road. Well, we're here. We are here. Derek slowly curled and uncurled his fist. Cove didn't take his eyes off you or Derek. No one made a move from the pile. Let's get it started. Broke the pause and grabbed a weapon. Cove lashed out like a snake at your move and got his hand around a balloon of his own before he could do anything with yours. But Derek wasn't going to be left behind either. He sucked both his hands deep into the mass and came out with two balloons. In quick succession, Derek launched one shot at you and the other at Cove. Ah! You felt the impact of a solid object slam against your chest before it burst into a million pieces and a shock of cold water seeped into the front of your shirt. Cove was left spluttering with a dark stain at the lower edge of his top. He shook the hit off and checked the balloon directly at Derek in return. It exploded against his right shoulder. No one was dry anymore, and no one was safe. The war was on. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4. Derek. Landed true and added a second dripping blotch on Derek's favorite jersey. Eep! We're even, Derek.
It's on.
Yeah, not for long. The three of you elbowed against the others to dig into the pile and restock your supplies. Politely taking turns was out of the question. The water balloon fight was in full force. Derek sprinted up and down the street, making himself into a moving target. He'd only make a mad dash for the center area when he ran out of balloons. Cove had no fear of being an easy mark and stayed right by the laundry basket, lobbing strike after strike at you and Derek. Chased after Derek. As fast as he was, he stayed hot on his heels. Derek had to duck from shots raining over him thanks to Cove and watch his back on account of view. He darted around, skipping, jumping, and changing course in a mostly vain attempt to avoid the onslaught, though he breathed heavily through a massive grin. Laughter and water splashes filled the normally quiet Sunset First neighborhood. We were convinced the mean grandparents would jump out and shout about the noise. Luckily, no one interrupted your revelry, and even if someone had, they would have been putting their dryness at risk by confronting your group. Rapidly, the amount of balloons dwindled until each person only had one left in hand, and the laundry basket had nothing except a little puddle at the bottom with scraps of rubber scattered in it. Arms were held high in the air, taking aim, and eyes shifted from one option to the other. Derek wound his hand further back. Cove and you couldn't take your eyes off him. Your teeth gritted as you tried desperately to calculate where the balloon would fly. Would it be Cove or you? However, Derek chose neither. He launched it straight up in the air, reached an impressive height. You could barely see the speck of yellow against the vast blue sky, until it inevitably sailed down and smacked against the tarmac. Derek broke into more snickers the exact moment the balloon broke into 1,000 drops of water. He wasn't the only one amused by the stunt. Cove's smile bent, and he opened his fingers to let his balloon drop harmlessly to the ground. Cove didn't pick it back up. Instead, he brutally brought his foot against his own weapon and decimated it under his heel. A jovial truce had been formed between the two. Let's see, I threw the first one at Derek, so we'll throw it at Cove. But that ceasefire didn't even have to apply to you. Without mercy, you pelted Cove with a final blow. It splattered against his collarbone, and he yelped at the unexpected soaking. He shot you a look that might have been hit as hard as your balloon if you hadn't paired it with a wry smirk. Cove applauded the success of your sneak attack. That was how the grandest battle your neighborhood had likely ever seen came to an end. You were all dripping wet and out of breath, and you couldn't be happier. Derek rubbed his hands together in satisfaction before crouching to the ground to start collecting tiny bits of water balloon debris. Cove strolled around to gather the confetti-like trash on his own accord as well. There didn't have to be a discussion. Derek and Cove had that quality in common, a distaste for litter. He appreciated that about both of them and joined in to help pick up the pieces off the ground. Quietly wandered around, filling your fist with the rubbery remains as the sun crept behind the condo roofs. Your shadows grew longer in the waning light. You felt the damp cling of your clothes more acutely as the excitement died down. Your team managed to finish cleaning before night had completely fallen. All the trash was dumped into a tall green trash can at the side of Cove's house. With all that remained of the carnage being a few drying water marks spied in the street, your group had returned to the state you'd originally started in, directionless relaxation. Cove had been perfectly willing to return to his house while still wet and scrounge up fresh glasses of lemonade, plus he had your candies tucked under his arm. It was a struggle to balance it all. But Cove took one for the team as someone who actually lived there. You and Derek didn't have to go in and make a mess of the Holden home, so you imagined Cove's dad wouldn't have cared. He passed the drink to you and one to Derek, then used his free hand to flip the laundry basket over. It was less flimsy than it looked because Cove sat on it and it didn't buckle at all. Derek politely passed on the seat Cove provided. He remained standing while shifting his weight from one foot to the other. That's where you would be the most comfortable. Derek welcomed you to the standing section with a grin. Cove quietly took a sip of his lemonade. Derek circled the top of his glass with the tip of one finger, watching Cove.
Are you alright?
How's your hand? Cove savored another taste of the drink, let out a refreshed sigh, and then answered.
It's okay.
It's still fine. Cool. The ritual of checking on him was complete, and Derek could only chuckle bashfully over his habit. Cove smiled over the rim of his cup. There was comfort in knowing Derek would always care. In between enjoying the lemonade was plenty of munching on candies. It was a match made in heaven. The air was warm enough to be comfortable even with your wet clothes. Lemonade, candies, and good company. That was what days like these were for. Couldn't get much better. Cove agreed contentedly, without you even having to say so. Summer really is the best season.
Same.
I think so too. I was just thinking about that. Great minds think alike. Gentle expression rested on Derek's face as he spoke softly. It'd be nice if things could be like this all the time, huh? But then Derek lifted his glass and spoke in mock outrage to the world at large. Why can't it always be summer break? Despite it being an obvious joke, Derek's words struck a chord with Cove. His whole chill hardened into seriousness. He downed his second glass of lemonade and hopped onto his feet. I'm gonna go check something. You should come. Both of you. Considered that a sufficient offer because Cove simply walked back to the front of his house and left the empty glass at the side of the door. Derek's gaze followed his friend and he lifted one brow. What are we gonna see? You'll see when we get there. Probably gonna try to talk me out of it, so you don't need to know now. What? Helms dropped his cup. Derek twisted his head to track Cove's moves with his saucer-wide eyes. Or maybe Jules would. This is gonna be trouble.
Come on.
Still completely confident, Cove strolled up the road. Derek gulped, but not the lemonade. Pointed a panicked glance at you. We should go. All right. Derek hooked his open hand through the side handle of the laundry basket. He jogged on his tiptoes over to Cove's condo. The bin bumped along against the street behind him. He flung it in front of him and left it there in the entry. He placed his half-empty lemonade by Cove's. You were right behind him. He dropped the candies into the laundry basket and completed the set of glasses by placing yours next to theirs. Let's go. After another light jog, you caught up to Cove. He was going at a leisurely pace, so smirked when he saw the two of you in the corner of his vision. Hey. Hi. Together you, Cove, and Derek left your neighborhood and returned to the main sidewalk they took to reach the grocery store hours earlier. An exchange of glances between you and Derek was the only interaction you had during the walk. Cove kept his sun-kissed face forward and his mouth shut. Shopping wasn't on your neighbor's mind because that building was passed without acknowledgement, taking you further down the path. Only about a minute later, your progress was halted by a row of strikingly orange traffic cones and strings of droopy do not cross banners. Should we go around? No, we're here. Huh? Derek stalled. Cove, however, got onto his knees in front of the blocked-off area. His eyes were glinting with intention. I saw this when we were leaving, but people were working on it. The concrete is still wet, and there's no one around now. Yet again, Cove had knocked a gasp out of Derek. You're not going to mess it up, right? Cove didn't have to say anything to answer. He shed a coy smile, and that was enough.
Oh, man.
Oh, Cove, that is really bad. The grin on Derek's face trembled, both from laughter threatening to spill out and the fear of getting in trouble. Yep, it makes perfect sense why you didn't say this before. Cove furiously stuck his finger into muddy gray concrete. He slowly etched out a series of numbers. When he was done, the corner of the block had 2011 scribbled into it for all to see. He surveyed his work with pride while wiping his dirty finger on the side of his pant leg. Summer. That made more sense to you than just having it be the year.
It's nice.
Derek stared hard at the soft, forbidding canvas as slowly crouched down. He paused, bit his lip, then ultimately pressed one finger into the tacky surface to leave a small print. He'd left a sign of his presence there on that day, right along with Cove and you. Relief came to Derek's features once he'd finished. Hopefully it dries before anybody finds out. Yeah. The single word was only a whisper, but it was warm and pure. Thanks for taking this, Cove. You're welcome. Cove dusted his pants off as he stood after a job well done. Derek shot up as well, newly invigorated. He looked to the sky and squinted at the sun. The day was coming to an end, but no one could say your group had wasted it. That was true for the entire summer. No matter what happened when school started again and when an unknown future arrived, you'd still have all the memories you made together when you had the chance, and the things you left behind. Whew. Okay, that took longer than I thought it would. Okay. I don't think I'm gonna be able to last through another one. But it's the soiree. This is actually probably a different version of the moments from the original Step 2. But basically, there's like this little party that your mothers are members of this country club, and you get to attend this little soiree. And you can invite Cove if you want, and I guess this DLC you take Derek instead. But you actually meet this other boy there very briefly, who you then see properly in the next step. But I have a feeling that this is going to be just as long as this was, and I don't have it in me to talk for another hour or so, and who knows how much longer. But I don't want. It feels like it's so short. Let's see. You'd whiled away the morning doing whatever struck your fancy, and now you were recharging with lunch. With nothing on the horizon, you were free to spend as much or as little time on your plate as you wanted. It was while you were thinking on all the possibilities for your afternoon that your moms approached you.
Hi.
Hi, Jules. You okay? Mouth full, you nodded in reply. To your surprise, they both sat with you at the table. Based on the time, you had wondered if they were joining you for a meal, but neither of them brought anything.
Alright.
Great, we wanted to have a little chat with you. The qualifier little did nothing to downplay the situation. Your chewing slowed as your eyes widened, looking from one parent to the other. Anything that required both of them to talk to you must be something big. Vacation maybe, or a pet? A revelation that they were actually undercover agents? You leaned in, eager to learn more. There's a soiree at the Cypress tomorrow night. Your mom and I are going. The Cypress was the country club your moms were part of and where Elizabeth played golf. It seemed like every other month they had some event or another, all with fancy names like soiree, which is actually French, if I remember correctly. I know I looked it up when I played the original moment. Let's see. Soiree. An evening party or gathering, typically in a private house for conversation or music. It's French. French from soir, S-O-I-R, evening. You nodded eagerly, anxious for Mom to get to the good stuff. Mom chuckled at your poorly concealed reaction. Leaning in, Ma took your hand and squeezed it. You decided to make the night a bit special. Elizabeth's going to be allowed to stay home fully alone for the first time.
Sorry.
You'll still be coming to the party with us. It's Elizabeth's night to party with no family around, not yours. Sorry, you've got to wait a couple more years. What's the soiree going to be like? The usual. Well, mostly. We wanted to make it a special night for you, too. So we've got something a little extra planned. That was unexpected. Interested, you listened. Your parents shared a look across the table. You cleared your throat, reminding them that you were waiting. They couldn't keep dropping such hints and then turn coy when the conversation was about to get good.
Well?
Since it's a pretty fancy party that's still chaperoned, and attendees are allowed to bring a guest, we thought it might be a nice opportunity for you to invite someone yourself, as a date, if you want. Your eyes widened as the words sunk in. Your mom's continued, and it was a struggle to keep up. Even though we'll be at the party too, you don't need to worry about us getting in your way. You'll be free to eat, dance, and enjoy the music as you see fit. But no leaving the property. Ma nodded at Mom's interjection.
Isn't that great?
Yes, as long as you don't leave the party, and if you'd rather bring just a friend, that's A-OK too. That's amazing! Must have lit up because your parents shared an amused look again.
Don't worry about
The
it.
soiree isn't until tomorrow, so you've got time. Just let us know your plans before we're heading out. And that's all. We'll leave you to your lunch now. Your moms rose from their chairs in unison, disappearing to another part of the house. Barely noticed their departure. All you could think of was what had just happened. Yeah, this is familiar. The remnants of your lunch stared up at you from your plate. Let's finish eating. The conversation took your mind off the meal, but you opted to try to eat a little more. You picked up the plate for a little while longer. Even though you'd relocated to your bedroom, your head was stuck on the conversation that had unfolded at the dining table downstairs. You knew that having someone come as a friend would be best. You wanted it to be a date. You didn't want to bring anyone. It was too soon to pick one way or another. As a friend. Feel most comfortable with that. It'd make the party a lot more fun than going alone, and you don't want to go along with the suggestion of that being your first date. But taking a friend required a further decision. Who to invite. Lee wasn't an option. She couldn't come by just whenever. Oh, right. Lee is your cousin. And she's like a friend, but she doesn't live that close. Your aunt and uncle had a rule that they needed more than one day's notice if she was going to visit you. It was too bad, since this sounded like the sort of event she loved, but not so much that she wouldn't tease you for passing up the opportunity to have an actual date. Cobb was always easily accessible for hanging out, and you were certain that with him you'd have a great time. Or maybe Derek could make it. Things were never dull when he was around, and while he didn't live in the area either, he was close enough to get a lift over at short notice. Let's invite Derek, because what's the point of playing the Derek DLC if I'm not going to invite Derek? Honestly. I may as well just play the soiree event from the original game. You were relieved to find the phone sitting in its cradle in the living room. Picking up the address book your mom's kept close to the phone, you flicked through until you found Derek's number under Suarez. You tapped the numbers into the phone and waited for someone to pick up.
Hello.
Suarez residence. Good afternoon, Mrs. Suarez. This is Jules Hunt. Can I talk to Derek?
I'm sorry.
He's out with his brothers right now. I can get him to call you back. We're gonna wait for Derek to return the call. I want to go with Derek. That's the point of playing the Derek DLC. Thank you. It would be really great if you could do it today. I'll see what I can do. You traded goodbyes, hung up, and found a place to relax in the living room. That was as far as you got in decision making. You let yourself sink down to the corner of the couch and remain stuck against the plush cushions. Your plan A was on hold. More than that, it was hung up on. But you'd committed to waiting to hear from Derek, so waiting is what you had to do. The remote had been carelessly left on the green stool, almost certainly by your big sister. You lurched over the armrest to reach the TV device. You stretched out your finger and succeeded in pressing down the on button. When flopping back down into your seat, you caught a glimpse of what had appeared on the screen. The show playing was How It's Made, a mini documentary type show. The subject of the episode was prepackaged crackers. Oh, I love this. I love finding out how stuff is made. Part of me kind of wishes I worked in those factories helping to make all this cool stuff. My dad used to sleep through it all the time. But now he works. He didn't have the motivation to actually pick up the remote to change the channel. He simply let it play. After discovering how ice is added to the flour when mixing the wet and dry ingredients, a jingly ring echoed across the room. Someone was calling. Threw yourself at the ringer in a panicked mess of nerves. Oh. I put my dice away and missed one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When? Okay, we're doing this. Hello, this is Jules. The initial answer you got was a series of lighthearted chuckles. Hey Jules, this is Derek. What my dad would say, were you trying to hatch the phone? I'm really sorry I missed you calling before. I was watching the little bros at the park. Mom came to find me. She did? Yeah, so I could call you back. Oh, Mrs. Forrest did you a big favor. Could she tell it was important? But, thanks for calling. Was there something you wanted to talk about? Basically, tomorrow my moms are taking me to a soiree at the country club they're part of.
Cool.
You gotta tell me what happens when you get back. Will you come with me? The pitch of his voice shot up.
Really?
Oh, it was almost at the same time as the game. Awesome.
No way.
I could go too. I want to come. It could be a practice date. We're not even going to hint at date. That's great.
It's all good.
This is going to be so fun. A muffled feedback masked Derek's voice as he talked on. He was moving around. You could easily picture him bounding about his apartment, phone still in hand.
Oh man.
What do you think they're going to have at the soiree? Dancing, music, sparkly drinks, maybe? Probably. The Cypress usually has pretty fancy parties. So cool. The anticipation between the both of you continued to rise, just imagining what tomorrow night might bring. But the party you were already starting was interrupted when Mom ambled back into the living room. She almost gave a shout to greet you, but caught herself when she noticed you were on the phone. Mimicking your current position, Mom stuck out her thumb and pinky finger and pressed that hand against her ear. At the same time, her lips stretched forward to slowly mouth the word, "Ooh." I like the last one. I don't want to end the call just yet. Can you hang out for a second? I've got to answer my mom. He spoke to the phone.
No worries.
Say I said hello. Leaving things within there, you lowered the phone to the counter. So, what's happening? I'm talking to Derek. He says hello. Derek Suarez? Her eyebrows arched in curiosity, but she still wore a grin. And did he happen to call out of the blue, or was it you who gave him a ring? Maybe to ask a certain question. Being the perfect mom and teasing you. You nodded your head vigorously, beaming at your mom. She understood what you meant. Okay.
So,
Is it a date? Her voice was light, teasing, and it was painful. Could only hope Derek hadn't heard that. We're just gonna hang out at the party together.
sounds good.
Makes sense to me. It'll be a hoot to have him along for the ride. Would you mind if I borrow the phone? I'll give Derek's parents a call and get everything squared away. Alright, I'll tell him. You nestled the phone against your shoulder and cheek to speak directly into it. Derek, my mom wants to talk to your mom about the soiree tomorrow. Awesome. We'll trade off. Bye, Jules. Bye.
See you later.
Take care, Derek, and see you soon. There were some happy giggles that snuck through before all sound on the other side cut off, marking the end of the conversation. Held the receiver out and Mom strolled over to pluck it out of your hand. Thank you very much, kiddo. Your part of the prep work was finished, and the rest of the afternoon passed by just like that. Back in your room, your mind was abuzz with visions of tomorrow night. The soiree was an exciting prospect now that you'd get to experience it with Derek. You just hoped that he'd have a good time when all was said and done. The evening of the soiree had arrived, the daylight hours having slipped away in a blur. Up in your bedroom, you were getting ready for the big event. That was your intention, at least, but you hadn't settled on an outfit. Stationed in front of your wardrobe, you scanned over the clothing you had at your disposal. Though Ma had mentioned this event was a bit dressier than a normal get-together, you didn't necessarily have to comply. Excuse me. Let's go with formal. I'm tempted to decide between the nicer pieces in your wardrobe, the ones that rarely had a chance to come out. You decided to dress formally because you honestly like dressing up. There was something magical about the sheen of an elegant fabric and the cut of formal wear. Something that transformed everyone into a more sophisticated version of their normal self. To start, you decided to wear... okay, so... I'm trying to remember how I did this. I think, originally, for the step 1, Jules went by she, her pronouns. But with step 2, she switched to using they, them, and stuck with they, them. So, let's go with the blouse. A pretty blouse was a strong start. It could pair easily with just about anything, and the subtle print of the fabric would give you a distinct look. Paired your top with dress pants. Picked a pair that complemented the color of your top and nodded with satisfaction. It was a slick look. You began to get dressed, your fingers working stiff zips and awkward fastenings. It felt different against your skin, reminding you with every movement that you were dressed up. Whatever happened tonight, you were pleased that you'd gotten the opportunity to wear this. Now dressed, you gave yourself a final glance, however, before heading downstairs, ready to head out. You found your moms already waiting in the living room. They were putting the finishing touches on their outfits. Ma strapping her heel into a stiletto shoe, and Mom trying to fasten a bracelet single-handed. They looked up as you entered.
Oh,
You look so nice, don't you think, Pam?
thanks.
Thanks for dressing up, Jules. I hope the party will be prepared for your arrival. You look sharp. Mom was still struggling with the bracelet. You lent a hand, literally, by taking one side and holding it as she secured the clasp. Thanks, kiddo. Elizabeth flittered down the stairs, her eyes narrowed.
What?
You're still here? Yes, but not for much longer, hopefully. Wait, I know you're excited, but we haven't even said goodbye, and I want to go over how things are going to play out. Elizabeth sighed as Mom began listing the rules, ticking them off on her fingers. No ordering takeout or other deliveries. You can't have anyone else come over.
Uh-huh.
She nodded, resigned to her fate, listening to a set of rules she could predict without so much as a glance at a crystal ball. If anything happens, you can call us or go across the street to the Holdens. Keep the noise down. This house might be empty, but there are people all around in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Usual house rules still apply. Don't do anything you wouldn't do if we were here.
All right.
And we'll be back no later than 11:30 p.m., but we'll call if there are any issues, so don't tap the phone line all night. Right, all done? Can you go now? Ma strode over and swept Elizabeth up in a hug. Her sister let out a small noise, her eyes widening, and suddenly looked much less like the smug teenager she acted like. You're such a big girl now. I can't believe it. Elizabeth rolled her eyes. This wasn't the quick departure that she'd been hoping for. Any chance of it ending soon vanished as Mom joined in the hug. Neither can I. It feels like it's only yesterday that... Elizabeth groaned, trying to cut the reminiscing off without success. Let's join in the hug. Embarrass her even more. Mom and Ma held out their arms to you as you approached, welcoming you into the hug. Elizabeth whined, eager for this to come to an end already.
Jeez.
Can you all just go? Jeez. Her family disentangled from the hug in time to catch the doorbell ringing. That must be our guest. Be our guest, be our guest. She hurried over to the door. As Ma predicted, Derek had arrived right on time and he was ushered inside.
Oh, nice.
You look very nice, Derek.
Same.
Thanks, Mrs. Hunt. So do you. Derek pulled at the ends of his little polka-dotted bow tie in satisfaction. His gaze, though, not so subtly sought you out. And that's going to you too, Jules. Classy. His words took you by surprise. Derek usually avoided making comments on your appearance, but you were happy to accept the compliment. You inspected his outfit in turn. Okay. I put all the dice away, and now I need to find one. There we go. It's D10 again, because there's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 3. Love the bow tie.
Yeah.
It's kind of goofy, but also kind of popular. But to be serious, I do think you look good. Thanks. Now that Mom had finished reiterating the rules for Elizabeth, who then scurried out to the sanctuary of her room, she came over to greet Derek. Hi, Derek. Nice to have you along for the ride. Thank you for taking me.
You're welcome.
It's no trouble. You're always welcome. It should be a fun night. Ma appeared, clutching a purse and wearing a huge smile. Agreed, but we should get going. Oh, and before I forget, thank you so much for getting here on the dot, Derek. That's appreciated.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Hunt. Always polite, huh, Derek? You were still the ideal guest, even with the long trip here. Yeah, I wasn't going to be late for this. Carefree laughter and conversation flowed from Derek.
Oh, man.
Man, I told my mom it was 30 minutes before it actually was. I was definitely going to be here when it was time to go. Clever, you've got everything figured out. He hooked a couple of fingers into his belt loop, grinning victoriously. I tried to. Mom got me here on time, so like 30 minutes before now.
Well...
I didn't want to interrupt you and your moms because you were probably getting ready then. I just hung out at the park. Oh, Derek. With a wink, Derek tried to smooth over the awkwardness of that confession. Jeremy never popped out of the bushes to insult me, so it was all good. It made you feel special that you cared so much. You can come inside my house whenever you want, Derek. He kicked up a leg bashfully, giggling the whole time.
Thanks.
I wanted to make a good impression, but I know you would have been cool about it. And even if I did have to be bored for a while, at least it was here in your neighborhood. You never know. There could have been a traffic. Or what if Jorge fell off a gate and broke his collarbone again? Jorge fell off a gate and broke his collarbone before? Yeah, when he was 8, but
Ugh.
you invited me to a soiree. My life would be over if just one of those things came up and, oh well, guess we're not going after all happened. Derek was drowning in the conversation of his own making. He tries to put a stop to that, building a dam between him and it. Sorry, I don't want to be all complaining when we're going to a party. And besides, coming early isn't going to matter if we're late, because we kept talking about being early. Let's catch up with his moms. Right, we better hurry. He pulled up at the country club. The sun had sunk deep into the horizon, the last of its light sleepily warming the oncoming night. Mom led the way to the space around the back where the event was being held. The place had been transformed through decoration with smart tablecloths and elegant ribbons contributing to a festive atmosphere. Musicians dressed in matching black and white were setting up their instruments and flicking through pages of sheet music. And, as promised, there was a table covered in plates of carefully prepared food. Destination reached, your parents rounded on you and Derek. Things haven't kicked off yet, but don't let that stop you from enjoying yourselves.
Have fun.
We'll be around if you need us.
See you later.
See you. Bye. Derek enthusiastically waved your moms off, stretching his arm as high as it'd go. Bye, Mrs. and Mrs. Hunt. Once they'd retreated to a distance away, you found him watching you. His eyes sparkled in the dainty, dangling lights all around as your outing together officially began. Is there anybody you want to socialize with? That's what parties are for sometimes. Or we could get refreshments. I hate to stop in the middle of this, but I can feel my voice starting to fade. So let's pause here. And we'll pick this up next week, hopefully, depending on how my voice is doing. It's been a little off lately. So thank you for watching, either while I'm live streaming it or on YouTube. If you're watching it on YouTube, please like, subscribe, follow, all that fun stuff. And next, the plan is on the weekend to play Mass Effect, and during the week to play visual novels. So we'll see how well that goes. So until next time, take care everyone.